doing my best, but as always, my best is simply just not good enough. It's 11:59. Can we just knock this off? Well, we can go either way with this. I am somebody that appreciates beauty in the world. So if I sound grosser than normal, that's what that is. Currently, it has one view. Thank you for whoever one viewed it. I am wrong again. So yeah, wherever I stored that memory in my brain, completely gone. I've failed you miserably. Yeah, man. 600 of these goddamn things. Wow. Also, why? To be perfectly honest, I am way more comfortable around anybody LGBTQ+ than I am around a lefty. Which one of Jupiter's moons are you really from? I'm kidding, of course. I'm totally kidding. Oh man, this is getting better and better.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Ah, man. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. If you're watching this on Strangerhood TV, welcome to another episode of the Top 20. I am sorry I am late. I can honestly say this time it was not my fault. But I did not give out the date last week, so let me start there. We have arrived in May. It's gonna be May, because it is May 1st. Not May 4th. I'll be May the 4th be with you and that lame-ass thing. It is May 1st, 2025. We have indeed made it. Spring is running rampant, and I know that because the weather is nice, the sun is out, and also every allergen in North America is currently in the back of my throat. No phrasing. So if I'm more disgusting than normal this week, that's just what it's going to be. So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let me make this a little louder because whatever. So here's what happened. So I went in to sign into my computer like I always do before the box. I usually do it earlier. I turned it all on. I transferred any music over to it. So I come in, I sign in, I immediately get that blue thing. Now, despite having had this same computer for about 4.5 years now, Microsoft decided to be like, hey, man, is now a good time to set stuff up? And I'm like, I don't even know what we're talking about to set up, but I was like, no. And then it just went ahead and started doing it anyway. So it's like, we need your Microsoft ID because there's sensitive information. Like, there isn't. There's like, the only sensitive information in here is either stuff I'm being yelled at by the chat or all the music, which, since I play it for free anyway, how sensitive could it possibly be? But I said no, and it went ahead and did that and said, you need to sign in. So I went and I signed in. I typed in what I thought was my password, and it said no, it wasn't your password. So I was like, all right, cool. So I go over where I keep my passwords. I look, it was indeed my password. So I tried it again. I said, nope, not your password. I'm like, okay, cool. It's 11:59. Can we just knock this off? And it was like, no. So I did forget my password, and it's like, okay, what is your code in the Authenticator app? So I open up the Authenticator app, which is also fun. Anybody that does MFC stuff, like, totally knows what I'm talking about. You can't swing a dead cat without a multi-factor authorization code these days. So I did that. I put in the code. It's like the code is not right because it had just changed the second I put the code in. So I put in the new code, and it says, nope, that's not right either. And I'm like, okay, well, now I don't know what to do. So then all of a sudden it just stopped doing what it was doing. Asked me if I wanted to sync it to my Android phone that I don't have, despite me constantly telling Microsoft I have an iPhone. And then it just started working. So I'm going to pause really quick. Well, I wanted to mute that, but I didn't. So that should make it into the bumper. I am swimming in allergies. Plus, I think I'm sick. I had that thing Monday night where, like, the back of my throat started getting scratchy, and I'm like, we can go either way with this. This is either a really wonderful spring cold, which I am definitely prone to as I get less and less slept, or it's allergies. I happen to love the trees that I have in my yard or in my neighbor's yard. We have a Japanese cherry tree at my neighbor's. That is the only tree I allow to, like, hang over into my property because it is simply beautiful. It's just bright pink flowers. But yeah, it just starts. That starts it all because the cherry is always the first to bloom. Phrasing, probably. I don't know. Cherry is always the first to bloom. My back neighbors, they have a dogwood. So as soon as the cherry stops blooming and all those petals fall over my yard, which I still don't mind, because it is really pretty just seeing tons of those pink things. But we have a dogwood in the back that's white. That comes up next. And that's, also really pretty, and that's been blooming, and that's gone through its cycle. So now in full bloom is the apple tree in the front of my house, which if you've never seen apple tree blooms, apple blossoms are just spectacularly beautiful. They're white, and not that they have to be white, but they happen to be white. And they're just slightly fragrant, but that's all happening. So that's waning right now. But next up is the lilacs I have in the backyard. Now, those things, you can smell those things from down the block, so I literally cannot wait till I can no longer breathe because all I'm smelling is lilac. Now, I do love all these things. They're beautiful, and I like having them around because I am somebody that appreciates beauty in the world. But I will tell you, it makes breathing kind of an option, to be perfectly honest with you. And so if I sound gross for the normal, that's what that is. I'm having all kinds of other problems too, but right now, for the purposes of this show, it's just that I just can't breathe. I am coughing, I am sneezing, I am completely disgusting, and I'll apologize for that in advance. I did not print out my light housekeeping, but I will give you a rundown on what I can know from just inside my brain here. There is a brand new top 20 out. Currently, it has one view. Thank you for whoever one viewed it. I appreciate that. Maybe we'll get some more of those by the end of the day. But it is the first 28, and that's a joke on the first 48, the Homicide show, and there's a whole Tom Score joke about that as well. But the first 28, I'm talking about the first 28 days of any Spotify single and just how important that is, which reminds me, I just want to check in really quick here. I don't want to be that guy, but let's just take a quick look and see if it is updated. I don't know when, actually, Spotify updates stuff. I know it's never when I think it ought to. But no, it has not updated yet. It'll update later today because currently End Us All, this will be the third. Today is the end of a second week of run, so 14 days if you're playing at home. But End Us All is currently just over 18,000 streams, which to me is just absolutely bananas. I was talking to Caggiano about that yesterday. And he was just like, good start. I'm like, good start. So far that's our best start. So I feel like that is a good start. We'll just sort of see how it goes. Because I know the next releases are, they're going to be out soon. We're still trying to figure out the final mix on It's Alright. And then after that is Run Through Me. Now, to be perfectly clear, and just for a little inside baseball, I think Run Through Me is the best of the three. But I think with the showing that End Us All is doing so far, I am wrong again. So, yeah. The number of times I'm wrong in a single week, day, or hour is just getting staggering. But anyway, the new episode is out. It's called The First 28. And I talk about being small and mighty in our little local scene here and just how important that is. And I will say, actually I'll get to that in a second. I also talk about damaging a brand, fundamental rights, the successful End Us All release. Apparently that is still going, so that's great. But the whole small and mighty thing, I will say from the show on Saturday night, I definitely got a lot of confirmation from a lot of people that have either heard me say it or were just saying it on their own that even though the crowd is just generally smaller in our little sort of sandbox scene, it is really a very tight-knit community, and I really do appreciate that for me personally, but I feel like I appreciate it for everybody on their behalf. It's a place to really belong. We aren't on the show Cheers, but it feels like it might as well be there because you literally walk in, everybody knows who you are, everybody's just like, hey, good to see you, and like I've said for years, it's been funny maybe over the past decade that any show that Rebel 9 and at least one other Sandbox band was on, it started to really kind of morph over from a show that we were doing to more like a community gathering, and everyone's there just to hang out, and it's also there's music, and sometimes the music is inconvenient, you know what I mean? I'm trying to have a conversation here, Rebel 9, but you keep playing music, which is very annoying, and I understand that, believe me, I totally do. That's why I have so many conversations from the stage while we're playing, so that's not true. But I did have something more to say about it, but I was thinking it yesterday, this would be a really good thing to talk about, and when I tell you, wherever I stored that memory in my brain, completely gone. I don't know if it was a tidal wave, maybe an F4 tornado, earthquake, I don't know, but that memory is completely gone because I have been trying to remember what that was all morning, and I have failed. I have failed you miserably. And that is just another successful Hard Rock Lunchbox. Speaking of successful Hard Rock Lunchboxes, I did not even realize this till this past weekend when I was posting the replay of the show. But last week was the 600th Hard Rock Lunchbox, which to me is not only bananas, but it is a bunch of bananas. And I kind of did the math, like, roughly, and yeah, it kind of makes sense. We're in our 11th year here, so that, I take roughly one show off a year, if that, usually for something, medical or even like a vacation or something like that. But yeah, man, 600 of these goddamn things, which is just absolutely crazy. I know the top 20, there are this one that just came out, there's 223 of those. Like, wow. Also, why is really the question I really have to ask. And you got to start to wonder at what point is this just like full-on narcissism on my part that I'm actually just out here just doing this thinking people want to hear from it. But I really do either convince myself or believe that it is a thing in our community that is important, and that's why it keeps going, and that's why it seems worth it to me. I mean, I do know, well, I don't know. Excuse me. Oh, man, it's just getting better and better. I do think, right, that, and I would like to believe that if indeed this was not purposeful and not helpful and not beneficial to our community, that I would, know that, and then I would stop doing it. But the reality is, like, people show up every week in the chat, which I super appreciate, but also there's still hundreds of downloads and replays of the replay every week. So I guess people are listening, and I guess it's worthwhile. I mean, I know the top 20 is kind of weird because, like, I can scroll through these things, like I can do right now. Like I said, like today's, the one that came out this morning has one view. The one, so I do have ideas. I just don't have time. Yeah, so the one from last week has 24 views. Can't be like, well, yeah. And then the one from the week after has 221 views. So I just don't
the record.
And then the one, then 253 views.
I would ask that.
Then
there's no one in
19
the chat.
views. So I don't really understand what's happening. Like I don't know why that is. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've tried to figure a lot of stuff out in my career, and I am just almost always wrong. So I don't know what the pattern is. My point is, I feel like it's worth doing, and it's the same reason that I feel like shows are worth doing. Like I've told a bunch of people at this point that, like, I am in this weird spot where it comes to performing, where I love performing. I love being on stage. I do love to perform stuff. I really, really like performing new material. Like, for me as an artist and a songwriter, there is no other greater moment for me than playing something brand new. And now I realize that a lot of times I'll play something new that's like emotionally charged, and I think we could all make an argument that as I introed our last new song, When I'm Gone, this past weekend, I was visibly upset, not because necessarily the content of the song. I mean, like, the song is difficult, what it is, but I was really upset about what I was talking about with the National Suicide Hotline. Now, I didn't go into a lot of details about it, because it didn't seem like the right forum. I never really want to be political from the stage. I try not to talk about religion, politics, or sports from the stage, because those seem to be super divisive, so I don't generally do that. But since this is a more selective audience, I can go into it more. And what I had said from the stage is that it exists, for starters, because it's fairly new. I think it's like 2022, maybe, it started. So if you don't know or you missed it, like 988, much like 911, 988 is the number for the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. And you can call that anytime, anywhere. You can text it. And they do that intentionally because a lot of times people don't want to talk, and it's just easier to text. And I think it's like within 11 seconds you're connected to a one-on-one counselor. So for anybody that's ever dealt in mental health issues or anybody that's ever been affected by suicide or other mental crises, it is an incredibly valuable tool. And I realize that, like, not everybody knows that, right? I don't even know why I knew that, other than, my life filter bubble would definitely bring mental health issues in my direction, in my feeds on browsers and news stories and whatnot. So I did want to make sure that everybody knew that, which is why I'm repeating it now. The number is 988. It's super important. And I said from the stage that in 2024, they had 1.6 million unique visits to that number, which to me is just staggering, that many people are in trouble to the point where they actually reach out. And I can't even imagine the number of people that don't reach out, right? So you can kind of extrapolate from that number how many more people are in crisis. And of those people that don't reach out, maybe they just don't know. So I find it important to always use my very public forum to explain, or not explain, but to let people know about services like that are out there. We are a small but mighty community for sure, but we have extended families and friends, all of us. So I think it's important for at least all of us to know that that's a thing and available, because it is. It just is. But what was really disturbing me is that in the morning I was watching something about how they're cutting some of the budget for this service, and I spent maybe an hour just trying to get my statistics right, so because I knew I was going to say something about it from the stage, but I wanted to get my statistics right. Like that's kind of important to me, and it was very gray because they're trying to do it very underhandedly, and in fact they're not even saying specifically that they're cutting something. What they did in true current administration fashion is they just left something off the budget, which is even more underhanded, right? Because they don't even have the balls to own it. So within the 988 platform, whatever it is, they have special services in there, right? For unique and special situations. One of which probably doesn't surprise anybody, is like Spanish speaking, right? Like that's a special service because it is. If you call or you're texting and you speak Spanish, you probably shouldn't be directed or connected with somebody that doesn't speak Spanish. In fact, you should be connected with somebody that's very fluent, and that's because there's a lot of nuance when you're dealing with mental health, right? Like you can't just have a textbook understanding of Spanish. You should speak it. So that's probably not surprising. And also what I'm about to say is probably not going to be surprising, but it might be something you didn't know. So one of the special services that they have is for specifically the LGBTQ community, right? Now that I said that, that makes sense, even if you didn't know that was a thing, because it is a special segment of the mental health crisis population, right? Like it's all statistics. Like there is going to be, if there's 1.6 million people that call the crisis center, there's statistically going to be a segment of that population that speaks Spanish. There is statistically a part of that population that might have intellectual deficiencies, and that's an important part. But of course, there is going to be a subsection of that identify as LGBTQ plus community, right? So they try and connect those counselors. Well, the Trump administration has basically decided that LGBTQ plus people don't actually exist, and the way that is kind of manifesting is they left off that line item for that budget, which if that were the end of the story, then when you call in, I mean, you probably wouldn't be just dismissed, right? Because I don't think the crisis counselors would ever dismiss you, but you aren't going to have a dedicated team that is going to be responsive to those issues. And I feel like that is an important part when you're dealing with quite literally, life and death, right? I think it's important to be able to speak to somebody that is fluent in your issues, much like it's important to speak to somebody that's fluent in Spanish if that's what you speak. So while the implications are bad, I do not think that they are dire because the crisis line still does exist. But what was really disturbing me was just how blatantly and honestly disgustingly the Trump administration is just trying to erase a segment of people. And this should not seem unfamiliar to you, right? In American history, like, we've disappeared lots of people. And I don't mean disappeared like picked up a green card holding citizen with no charges pending and moved them to El Salvador. That's its own problem. But I mean, we did this often to the Native Americans. I mean, that was kind of famous, like the whole Trail of Tears. I mean, we just constantly kept doing it. We've done it to African Americans over the years. Like, these just sidelined and maligned segments of population that the rest of the power elite or the people in power just decide that they don't exist. They're subhuman. They don't qualify for whatever. But like, the simple fact that people in charge right now are basically just trying to dismiss and disappear and get rid of an entire segment of the population, no matter how small it is. I mean, if you talk to people on the right, 3/4 of people are, LGBTQ. Like, and that's just simply not the case. Like, you talk to people on the right, like, every single girl's sport has 4 trans athletes trying to get into it. That's not true either. Statistically, it's a fairly small amount of the population. Like, there are way more Asians in America. I mean, you know what? I don't even know that this is true, but I'm going to guess that there are way more Asians in America than there are bisexuals and queers and stuff like that. Just from a statistical thing that I've seen over the years, that's just true. Like, it's like, how there's less lefties than righties, and honestly they should be, because I cannot handle left-handed people. I'm sorry if you're offended by that. My father was left-handed to this day. President Obama was left-handed. To this day, I cannot handle watching them sign their name. Like, it's just one of those things, and that says way more about me. But like, to be perfectly honest, I am way more comfortable around anybody LGBTQ plus than I am around a lefty, right? Like, now, if you give me a lefty LGBTQ person, like, we might have a significant issue, but like, I'm hoping I can look past that. I mean, I'm kidding, of course. I'm totally kidding. But it's like the same, like the people that don't like bacon, it's like, okay. Which one of Jupiter's moons are you really from? Because bacon, like, I try so hard to not eat bacon because I just think, like, these farm-raised meats, especially pigs, who are smarter than most people I run into on a daily basis, like, is just horrible and inhumane. But, like, I still can't quite kick that pig, if you know what I mean. So I'm doing my best, but as always, my best is simply just not good enough. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say, and I wanted to clarify why it was upsetting to me without me saying on stage what the actual reason was. But that was the context behind that. Plus, the song I was about to play had some serious, mental health context too. And I realized that, like, after we played the song, even though we got that same sort of applause that I always like after a new song, there's always like a space and then some applause, which I always appreciate. I noticed it was metered, and I feel like it was metered because of the really dark and sad intro I gave it, plus the content, plus I was feeling a certain way about the song, plus I was feeling a certain way about what I had just introed the song with. And I realized at that moment, like, the way I present these songs, and I know this, like, I know, like, it's here, it's not even back here, like, I know this. The way I present a new song matters. And, and I feel like you could see that juxtaposition in the way that I introduced when we covered Sweet Caroline, because I know for a fact there were people in the room that really cannot stand that song, which I did not know at the time. I didn't think you could hate a song like that, because, I mean, do you hate the Alphabet song, like, or the Sesame Street song? I mean, you could probably make an argument for the Barney song, but, like, I didn't know people felt passionately anti-Sweet Caroline. And then we were talking at rehearsal, and apparently, like, I guess it's Yankee fans really don't like, as a segment, Yankee fans really don't like that song because they play it when the Yankees play in Boston. Like, I don't follow baseball. I haven't since I was a kid. But, like, I didn't know that, and I thought that was really funny. Even funnier, actually, because one of the few things I really do like about sports is pitting, city teams against each other. Like, I love that there are Islanders and Rangers fans sitting next to each other that are friends, and then, like, secretly, like, kind of hate you on a certain level. Well, that goes on with the Mets and Yankees, which just makes me laugh. Like, my drummer is a huge Mets fan, and there's tons of Yankee fans. in the Rebel 9 fan base. And, like, there's a part of me, part of my heart that is laughing at that constantly. So that part I do enjoy. So if you hated Sweet Caroline simply because you're a Yankee fan and hate Boston, like, I feel like that's probably the best reason to not like that song. But my point is, like, I introed that song in a much lighter place, and it's a much lighter song, and even people that hated the song were still doing the ba-ba-ba, you know, because it's just fun to be a part of it, and that got a much better response. So here I am, probably near the end of my life, and I'm still learning lessons about how to perform on stage, and that's what that whole long intro was about. And clearly, since I didn't think End Us All was going to be the big standout song from this batch, I clearly don't know anything about songwriting and the way audiences are going to receive that. But what I do know for sure is that we're coming up on 12:30, which means I have spent way too much time talking. We are well over the top 20, so why don't we just get to some music? And let's start with End Us All, because, like I said, it's just north of 18,000 streams so far, and even though this doesn't count as a play on Spotify, in my head, it's just definitely 18,001.
Fortunes in a